Alright, so today's video is about how to film yourself and look cinematic. So if you've ever wanted to become a YouTuber, a content creator, or a filmmaker, knowing how to film yourself is the best skill that you should learn first. So when you're first starting out on YouTube, you might be shy or embarrassed on how to go about filming yourself and going out in public. And sometimes you might ask for help and people might be too busy, or you might feel embarrassed for them to help film you. So in this video, I'm going to try to show you some easy steps that have helped me whenever I shoot solo. So here's everything you're going to need. You can use a phone. You can also use a camera. I'm using a Sony FX3. You're also going to need a lens. I'm using the Sony G-Master f2.8 24-70. You also need some type of mic system. I'm using the Rode Wireless Pro. This one is hooked up to the camera itself. And then I got my lav mic going on over here. This one's not necessary, but it does come in handy when it gets bright outside. You can use an ND filter. I'm using the new Polarizer Edition 2 by Peter McKinnon. You're also going to need some type of tripod to stabilize your shots whenever you're shooting. I'm using the Coleman Mundo 525M. It's usually for photography, but it also works well for filming. And last but not least, you're also going to use a gray card. You can get this fairly cheap on Amazon. I think maybe 10 bucks at the most. Comes in handy when you want to color balance or do your exposure on S-Log. Now that we've talked about equipment, it's time to talk about other aspects to filmmaking, such as composition and lighting. As you can tell, I'm standing here in my backyard. Swimming pool is over here. This was the table and chair where I was sitting earlier. I'm in the shadow area. If I were to step back, and it's a bit cloudy, but we got some sun, you'll see that I'm now in the sunshine and I'm not exposed to the correct lighting. Earlier, before I hit record, I exposed myself in the shadow area. Here in the sunny area, it's kind of cloudy, but I should be too bright on this recording. Unless you're shooting on autofocus, it's very important to, for each shot, make sure that you have the correct exposure for your subject. Now on to composition. A better shot would be for me to choose showing this table area or showing the swimming pool area. For instance, I'm still exposed in the shadow. If I were to turn it like so, then this would be a better composition. Or I could come up front over here and this would be a better composition. Another thing that's very important to talk about is how many shots that you can shoot. Earlier in this episode, I started shooting as many scenes. The establishing shot was the first one. Then I kind of zoomed in on the table area and me moving the little lemonade water that I had and filling it up. And then the final scene was where I was talking to you and telling you what this video is about. So here's another example of not the most flattering shot. All you would have to do in this instance is see how in the shadow area, much better shot. Okay, so these are things that you got to think about every time you get out there and film. The best time to shoot during the daylight, if you're outside, would be either in the morning time or in the evening time when the sun is either rising or setting, about one to 2 hours before for each one. But like this this is really harsh. It's not good for photography or filming at all, unless that's the shot that you're going for. Another thing that might assist you is the viewfinder on your camera itself. If you're able to buy one that has one, that comes in handy so you can kind of see where you're at. But I highly recommend you look directly at the lens, like talking to a person, not at the viewfinder, because it kind of looks funny when I'm looking at the viewfinder versus looking at you. If you don't have one, or you don't have to buy, by the way, an expensive monitor. That's just overkill unless you got really good at your trade. But what I like to use is another tripod. Let's see if you see it? Another tripod here. I've got it attached to my cell phone. This is the Creators app that came with, that enhances your ability to see yourself. It turns into a monitor basically with the app, by Sony, for people that have the Sony FX3 and some other cameras. All right, and with that being said, I'm gonna land this plane. Don't be afraid to get yourself out there. I know it's embarrassing at first, everyone's kind of looking at you, but 9 times out of 10, they're kind of wondering what you're doing. They're kind of, even though they're not telling you, in their mind, they're applauding you for getting yourself out there, for having the courage to get yourself out there. This is the only way for you to learn, is to practice, practice, practice. Your first couple hundred videos, they're going to suck. And that's the only way you're gonna get better, is by trying and trying. Sometimes your friends are gonna come and help out, sometimes they're not. Don't let that stop you. Be motivated, be encouraged to get out there and film yourself. And with that being said, as always, hit that like button if you enjoyed it, share with a friend, don't forget to subscribe, comment how this video has helped you if you get a chance, and we'll see you in the next one.